yay, yay, what a week. What a week, what a week, what a week. But I got a movie watching weekend ahead of me, so things are looking up. I am practically going to be living at my favorite little theater in Hollywood, the New Beverly, this weekend, so I'm very excited for that. I'm very excited that it's Friday, and I've been watching some movies. I've been watching some movies to get me through the slog of the old week. Um, and I have been really experiencing like this huge draw to watch some Paul Morrissey films lately. And I believe his best ones are the ones with Udo Kier. And of course, it's kind of funny that these were billed as Andy Warhol films. And look, I get why they did that. And like to be honest, like I did not know Warhol rock and rolled like that. And I dig it. Um, but these are Paul Morrissey films through and through. Okay, put some respect on that name. These are Paul Morrissey films. Thank you, Andy Warhol, for lending your name, but these are Paul Morrissey films. Thank you very much. And fun fact about Paul Morrissey, he was a social worker at one point. So, it proves like even us saints, even us mere saints, humble saints, can be transgressive and punk as fuck, and in that way, we will never die and we will always remain icons. So thank you, Paul Morrissey. Thank you for your films. Um, and of course, I can't think about Udo Kier without thinking about Klaus Kinski. Okay, they are two peas in a little fucked up pod. To me, it's just they're my two lover boys, and I just dig them so much and love them so much. And I have to be a little bit honest here. I'm gonna like tell you something, and I'm like kind of like looking around, making sure like sometimes people like hang around my doorway. I think it's like they just hear so many um, noises that could only be described as noises from the pits of hell going on in here, with the English bulldog and his noises and his Willem Dafoe in the lighthouse vibes and watching my movies and stuff. I think, they're always thinking like, is she getting hurt in there or is she just watching another one of those freak ass movies? I'm not sure. Um, but I do have to admit something. Okay, so I did perform a little bit of a seance the other night, and it was like it started as a joke. Like I thought it was a joke, okay? Wasn't taking it seriously. However, I think that I have summoned Klaus Kinski. I really do. I think I was successful in summoning him, and I didn't think it could be real. I didn't think I was that strong of a medium. But it's like who even knows with this stuff? It's like maybe it's like that's another one of my secret talents that you only find out about until you do it. And apparently, I'm a pretty powerful one because I do think I summoned Klaus. I think he's here. Like, not here in my apartment. Unfortunately, that's the thing. He's not here in my apartment. Okay, I summoned him to be here so that I could meet him and I could subsequently marry him because obviously he would fall madly in love with me immediately and instantly. But he has yet to come visit me, but he's like running amok in my apartment building, okay? Because, like, right after this, a hose burst in the laundry room, flooded the basement, somebody's ceiling caved in, okay? Like, there's been like a bunch of the neighbors are like whispering, like, there's a poltergeist in the building, it's like things are getting thrown against walls and walls are getting smashed up, and somebody's like, stomping up and down the hallways, and then when you go out there, it's like no one there, you know. And it's just like these spiritual tantrums running amok out there. And it's like, I'm pretty sure this is Klaus. I'm pretty sure this is Kinski. I'm pretty sure I actually summoned a spirit. And I summoned not just a spirit, the spirit of Klaus Kinski is running amok in my apartment building right now. And I couldn't be more excited. You know what? I could be more excited if he would actually come fucking visit me. Because I've been sitting here. I've been sitting here in the dark, skin aglow, looking my best, waiting for him to come and meet me, take me. Nothing. Nothing, you know? And of course, I have to like pretend with my neighbors like that I don't know anything about this. So I'm just like, oh my gosh, what? Oh, the spirit of like a B movie actor? I would have no idea how that would even happen. God, don't even look at me that I wouldn't me who would do I don't even know how to do those such things. I don't But thankfully no one's really looking at me about this because you know what, I do a much better job of acting as I just did there. So people are just like, yeah, no, she doesn't know what's going on. Um, and but Klaus has forsaken me, and I'm a little bit disappointed by it. I do think because this is not my first rodeo. It's like I've always been like, apparently this building's haunted, so I've always been like waiting around, like spirits, demons, whatever, aliens, other dimensional beings. I would love to see one. And so sometimes I just sit around in the dark for several hours and it's like, I mean, sometimes I even like put a veil on and everything like that. I commit to the pageantry of it all because I feel like the spirit realm they appreciate that, and they don't apparently though. I mean, it's like I'm thinking that, but then actually there's like nothing really to back that up because they never come visit me. I think I'm like too eager. I want it too much. Um, and maybe the demons are kind of thinking like, oh, I don't know, if we possess that one, like who needs to be exercised from who, really? It's like maybe we should avoid that one. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I'm keeping the faith. I'm keeping the faith he'll come and visit me one night. I mean, the activity kind of has died down, so maybe he's out terrorizing, gallivanting about Hollywood right now, just terrorizing as he sees fit. So, you know what? And I have to say I'm not too disappointed because that's what I love about Klaus, It's like he's out there and he's still terrorizing from beyond the grave. And I appreciate it. That's what I love about him. Um, but all this to say that the energy of these two powerhouse actors absolutely enchants me. I love these two. They take just like this very theater-like approach to their art, and they have this very theater-like presence, and they add a certain couth to the really scumbag characters they seem to play, and they're just like kind of nothing more amusing to me than like a low life that like thinks himself and considers himself a king. I just think that's really funny. um so getting actually into what I was here to talk about, movies. I have for you tonight Flesh for Frankenstein that came out in 1973, paired with The Hand That Feeds the Dead that came out in 1974. Now, before I actually get into it, sorry if you hear the chips over here. I'm snacking. I got my chips. It's a Friday night. We're killing it. We're killing it. We're vibing. And so I just wanted to show off my very awesome, okay? And I have to say thank you to my BFF for getting this for me as a gift. This is my very awesome Flesh for Frankenstein collection here. So it does come with a 3D one, okay? I don't have a 3D TV, so like I can't watch it, but it does come with a 3D version that they did release here and in Canada, I guess. But so they have a 3D brings the whole off the screen and into your lap. God, what a dream, right? It's like the people are losing their minds. There's a lady in the back, she's literally pulling her hair out. It's great. I love it. But look how cool that is. And then we got the Blu-ray in here. We dare you to see Flesh for Frankenstein. I love it. Look at this art. Look at this art, man. So cool. So fucking cool. And then this is like what it looks like. It just looks like the but then here's my little Blu-ray. Oh, Blu-ray. I dig it so much. I just had to show it off because it's so cool. And I do have to say, the first time I saw this movie, um, was on a double bill because Vinegar Syndrome was releasing this and Blood for Dracula. They were releasing these, and so they did a double feature of Flesh for Frankenstein with Blood for Dracula at the Aero Theater. It was at Beyond Fest, which I love. I go to every year. Shout out to Beyond Fest. But it was one of the greatest experiences of my life. I saw these two for the first time there, and then Udo Kier was there to do a Q&A. Before the Q&A, he goes across the street, gets fucking shithoused on red wine, comes back, and he is just literally in tears, like talking about how overwhelmed he is with emotion and how much he loves these films and loves us for showing up. And yeah, it was the greatest experience of my life. I'll never forget it. I love it so much. And in each time that I look at this and each time I watch it, I always think about that. And then I also got the physical copy of The Hand That Feeds the Dead. We got Kinski there. Klaus Kinski carves up female faces in this lost Euro horror. Shocker. Love it so much. Love it so much. So we got some great Euro horror art there for Klaus. I just had to show those off first because they're like super cool, and I just wanted to be like, "Hey, everybody, look at how cool I am that I have these physical copies and such awesome ones at that." And as a little aside, kind of talking about Blood for Dracula, I'm going to spoil a double feature that I'm going to do, but it's going to come later, so you guys like might forget about it, and then we'll revisit. Um, but I would love to do a double feature of Blood for Dracula with Paganini. Which if you haven't seen the latter, well, or either of them, you are in for a treat. Let me tell you, okay? Paganini is a vision that Herzog refused to put on, like he refused to entertain it. He refused to put it on screen. Read the script, was like, this is absolutely unfilmable. It's kind of like what drove him and Kinski apart, actually. Well, it's one of the many reasons. Obviously, there's a lot of reasons going on there if you know their dynamic, but that was one of them. That was one of the reasons. And then Kinski was like, I'll just direct it myself. And I'm not going to give too much away until the time is right. But just now, with Paganini, you're in for one hail of a nymphomaniacal. Megalonymphomaniacal. I just made that word up, I think. But you're in for a megalonymphomaniacal time with this one. That's a fun word. That should be the tagline. For the for that film. Really, it should. It should. Anyone who's seen it, you know what I'm talking about. You're the real heads. We know what we're talking about. We're vibing. We're vibing on a Friday night, watching Paganini. Okay, let's actually start talking about Flesh for Frankenstein here. Okay, so when thinking about Flesh for Frankenstein, I have to mention how much I was like already just so in love with this film because I love the dynamic that the two leads have in this. It's like this dynamic of this like very pathetically insecure Dom who like needs constant adoration from his very overwilling valet. I just love that. I love that dynamic. I think it's so funny. It amuses me to no end. In fact, my favorite historical figure, Napoleon Bonaparte, um, which now I'm going off on another little. I'm going to go off on many asides tonight because I'm vibing, man. It's Friday. I'm excited for my movies. But my favorite historical figure, Napoleon, he had a dynamic much like this. And he had his imperial servant. He has Louis Marchand. Louis Marchand? I think that's his name. I know that's his last name, but I always get it confused as like this composer. Whatever. Just we're not gonna go off on too many assigns here, but um and so he had a dynamic like this with this imperial servant. He like fussed all over him, and everything like that. And of course, he had much more of like a cult of personality around him than the Baron does in Flesh for Frankenstein. I would like to go off on just another little aside. It's like the inception of little asides here. But I would like to say, because I feel like I'd be very remiss not to say this, um, that the Ridley Scott film is an atrocity. It is insidious British propaganda against a gifted and skilled lover and a brilliant strategist. And we don't recognize it in this house. We don't recognize it in this home. It's sickening. It's disgusting. I vomited after I watched it. I couldn't even, and I love Ridley, I love Joaquin, but that was just a bridge too far. It just really was so just sick and twisted, and I hated every minute of it. Um, and this is a complex issue for me, okay? Like it's a complex issue for me because I love Napoleon so much, but as a pug lover, literally until my dying breath and beyond, I just adore pugs. I really do. Had two before this. Had the best one in the world, Hamlet. Um, but as the story goes, Napoleon had Josephine's beloved pug assassinated. He assassinated that dog. He assassinated her pug, which I would have killed him with my bare hands if that would have happened. I mean, there would be no coming back from such a thing. I would kill him. So it's a whole thing. It's like I guess I don't understand love, but I do understand love. I understand love in the form of a pug, and anyone who ever got in the way of that would be dead. They would be dead. So, um, and so anyway, like to give some more context though about Josephine's pug, the pug did bite him on his dick and would not allow him near his marital bed at all. But the thing that you need to know about pugs is that they are aristocratic mother boys. They appreciate the finest things in life. They're creatures that exist for their luxuries, live for pageantry and performance. They are performers at heart, those little dogs, and they have a deep affection for their mothers. In fact, they would die they would die of a broken heart without any of these things. Okay, they would die of a broken heart. They really would, And I was one thing I cautioned, when like during lockdown and like things were getting, it was like people were just like, taking and stockpiling and stuff like that. And I was like, you know what? Any pug lover, any pug owner, you need to understand, like, you need to stockpile the luxuries because they will not live without it. Like, like we can do whatever we're going to do without toilet paper, but they will not live without their luxuries. You need to stockpile those. It is a very important issue. They wouldn't survive in an apocalypse, not because, they wouldn't, it's not because they can't survive. It's not because they're creatures that could never survive on their own. It's they would die of a broken heart because they didn't have their luxuries. And especially if they didn't have their mothers too. That would be just a stake right in a pug's heart. So and that's why we love them. And that's why we love those pugs. They are just the best things in the world. They're the best little fucking things in the world. I adore them so much. Um, so you know what? Having said all this, like when he invited this pug in his home, he should have known, like this royal bed is now this pug's and his mother's, and Napoleon should have respected that sacred bond. So you get bit on the dick, like, I'm sorry, but this precious little pug had his righteous little reasons, and that's that, Napoleon. That's something that you need to understand, and he didn't, so he got bit on the dick for it. You know, there it is. It's just that's judgment. Judgment smashing its gavel down. But you know what the thing is? The thing that keeps me from really despising Napoleon is that I'm like 98% sure that my late pug Hamlet was a reincarnation of Napoleon himself. I'm like 98% sure. The other 2%, like Orson Welles, like if two souls could like meld in a body, that's what Hamlet was. He was, like five parts Napoleon and like, whatever parts Orson Welles. But I'm pretty sure he had like both of them in there. Sometimes I could just see it in his eyes. I just knew it. So I'm pretty sure he got reincarnated as a pug. So it was kind of like, pugs got the last laugh. Paid his penance by being a precious little pug. And, of course, pampered and adored in this household. But, that was Napoleon and that's pugs, man. They had more in common than they really thought. If he had just given the pug a chance, I think he would have seen, they have much more in common than they don't. So, um, there we go. Um, so he had that dynamic. You know what? It's so funny. I got this book at the ready because I wanted to bring out this book. So this is the book that I really discovered this dynamic because all of the other kind of writings on Napoleon, like it's like, they treat it as like, yeah, he had his imperial servant, whatever, whatever. But this fucking book goes into it so deep that the whole time I'm reading this damn thing, I'm thinking about Flesh for Frankenstein. I'm like, this is the exact like dynamic that the Baron and Otto had. So funny. And this is a great book, by the way, too. I picked this up for $1. It was either at the last bookstore or it was at the Iliad in North Hollywood, which if you live in the LA area, like my favorite bookstore. It's like amazing. So please check it out. Check out this book if you can find it. It's really interesting. Goes into that dynamic in detail, but also like goes into what the title states. And one of the things that I think is so funny, and that's why they have to go into it so much, is that, of course, Machan, he like was like fussing all over all Napoleon, especially when he was in exile. Of course, he had to go with him in exile. And so, he's with him in exile, his last exile, and he's there, he's fussing all over him, and then he actually like shaves off locks of his hair on his deathbed so that he could like still keep him close after death. And that's how they figured out Napoleon was murdered because they were able to test those hairs. They were so precious, and passed down in that household, I guess, for generation upon generation. They were able to actually to track down his, descendants still had the locks of hair because that's how much it meant to him, and they were able to test it and find out that he was poisoned. Great read, good stuff. It's stuff that it's and the thing is because you either have scholars that are British who want to just sell their insidious propaganda against a great man, or you have French scholars, but they refuse to admit that he was murdered because it's like it's very obvious, like it was a Frenchman's hand. So they still can't accept it because he's such a revered figure there, I guess. Still, but anyway, I've gotten way off track. But check this book out if you want it. I wanted to just show it off because it's just I fucking love this book so much. It's nonfiction too, by the way. I know kind of like the drawing makes it look like it's fictional, but it's not. It's such an incredible book. And one that I loved so much because it goes into this dynamic. I had so much fun reading. Um, but let's go back to the point. Udo is the Baron. He's got his boy Otto. And Otto's just always following around, delighting in all his fancies. It's like every wish is command, the perfect valet. And the Baron also has a sister wife. So you will see, yes, we have another tale of incestuous passion. You will see that this is a pet cinematic theme for me. I'm really drawn to it. I love it. In cinema, I feel like I do have to see it sometimes because I'm like, I love incest in cinema, in narratives, not in real life. Um, so he has a sister wife and he both like reveres her but also despises her, and they're very like freakish inbred children. The children are really freakish in this. So they're really, really, I mean, it's something else. And so naturally, he has his life. He has his auto, he has his sister wife, he has his freakish kids, and then he wants to build this master race, because he doesn't feel like he has enough admiration, so he's like, I got to build this master race who will devote their lives to just my very existence, basically. And so in a way it's funny that he wants to populate Otto in a sense, but of course he's always just like discarding his affections like for the trash that he views him as, and it's like it's kind of funny that it's like no, they need to be, this master race, I guess. It's like Otto's the trash, I need something I can respect that respects me, that dedicates their life to me. And so, he and Otto, like, have this plan where it's like, you know what, we're gonna make this like male and female zombie pairs, this like very macabre Adam and Eve, and then that they will populate and make this master race for me. And he and Otto have already found the girl. It's like really anyone will do. Who gives a shit? But the male is the one that they really covet. And so they go down and they scour the local whore hut, and they're out and they're like really scandalized by what they hear inside, and they think like, oh my gosh, like, like what's whoever is in there, is this really just like auditory sexual stallion, and like he's the one, he's our one. We gotta get that. We gotta get that guy. We gotta get our guy. And that's our boy. Um, but this becomes a very Hitchcockian mistaken identity type deal where it's like, there's the sexual stallion's friend and he's like, taking a breather because he's just like, there's just too much, you know, um, just sexuality going on in there. I have to take a little bit of a breather. I got to take a little bit of a break. Too many delights, too many sexual delights going on in there, and it overwhelms him. Um, and so this leads to, an accidental beheading, naturally, and that's and then they end up getting him back to the lab and they realize, like he has a very erotic dysfunction. um, and we maybe didn't get the right one. So the Baron is like, there's this really funny scene, and the Baron's like ordering, the Z girl to like kiss the Z boy, and they're like going from like kiss to like dick, kiss to dick, and it's like it's just perplexing them. It's like making the Baron furious that it's like there is no encouragement going on here. I don't understand. Like we heard you inside, what the fuck is going on now? And it's like it seems like it goes on for several hours. The huh, 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 what? But of course, the real sexual stallion is a very Morrissey muse. By the way, if you watch more of Paul Morrissey's movies, you'll see this guy is like in every one. And he really does resemble this real sexual, capable, virile young man. Um, So, he's like, my plans have gone awry. The Baron kind of tosses this deficiency aside to his very sexually devious sister, who's, you know what, it just happens to work out because she's thirsting for a very like crudely stapled corpse to fuck her silly. So it works out. It works out for her. She's like, yeah, right. Like, here we go. Let's go, corpse. I'm ready for it. And then we have the Baron, who his sexuality is very specific. I don't think he has a sexuality other than playing with dead things. That's the only thing. He's like elbow deep in the insides of this long dead girl, just like breathily giving Otto orders, and it's like it's this very specific and only arousal, really. It's like he's examining the organs like he's parsing through like profiles on a dating app. It's like it's really what tantalizes him is his egoism and the power of his own lab. um, he's just the sleaziest, but he's like, the thing is, he's as sleazy as he is coiffed. He's like this real marriage of high society with rats rolling around and meth laced shit in the gutter. It's like it's the perfect character. He's an Udo Kier just fucking kills it, man. um but of course, it all ends in death, right? Otto's tries desperately to recreate the Baron's necrophiliac delights, and he accidentally completely eviscerates the female abomination. I mean, it's just he turns her into hamburger meat. I mean, he fucks it up. And the Baron, of course, he gets furious. He physically kills him. But I like to think like Otto really died of a broken heart because he was like, I let my beloved Baron down. He was already dead. He was already dead long before he got physically killed. At least his heart and his soul was. The Baron's impaled very phallically. Sister gets killed by her own undead sex slave, which is ironically he's doing the very thing that he's asked to do. So he's successful in that attempt. He listens to exactly what the Baron says, and he fucks that sister to death. And then the real sexual stallion, the Morrissey Muse, he has found himself in quite the little pickle. And he's like caught in this contraption. Now he's at the mercy of the Baron's like freakish inbred kids. And it's sort of like the final scene is like this really vile Renaissance painting. It's like the film ends in his lab. It's just like these ghostly gothic children, scalpels at the ready, with this guy in this contraption surrounded by murder and suicide. And you just look at it and you're just like, you know what? You know what, Baron? Like, maybe you kind of created quite the masterwork after all here. Um, he really did. Which leads me to the hand that feeds the dead. So we got Kinski playing Nijinsky. It even rhymes. It even rhymes, guys. Um, he's preened in high society, very much like the Baron. But he's more of a lover than a deranged necrophiliac and a murderer. He is obsessed with young, beautiful skin. But you know what? What makes this very romantic is that his wife has been all fucked up. She's been all burnt up, and she lives in this permanent black veil. And, to cover her disfigurement, she's banned mirrors, forbids mirrors, but also like has this hand mirror she's constantly looking at, but doesn't have the mirror. It's like just the handle. She's just like looking at a handle constantly, just haunting the house in her just black veil. Um, which is like a really cool it's a really cool image, I gotta say. But he's obsessed with the skins of these young, beautiful women for the graphs, okay? The love graphs, if you will. Okay, these are love graphs, and it's like it really makes you think it's like, romance may be the only thing that's alive and well in this world and any world. And so his aim is kind of like, I'm going to take these undeserving skins, I'm going to supplant them on my lady love, and then, we'll get back in to being husband and wife. She'll stop confiding in her weird little companion thing that she has, which honestly can only be described as a doll that has traveled just literally every debauched realm imaginable to witness the most frenetic acts of unhinged squirming blood orgies of terror, and has survived against its will. That is, this thing is psychotic with a capital P. Okay, like when you watch this, it's frightening. It's like I watch these movies with delight, and that thing was like, okay, this is a bridge. This is way too far. This is really I don't even know how to make sense of it. So kudos to the doll because it even got me. It even got me freaked out. Um, so the only thing more psychotic about this movie is that Kinski's voice is dubbed in Italian, and it's just like it's fucking dubbed, and but he's such an exceptional actor, that his physicality kind of supersedes. Really, frankly, such a certifiable decision. I mean, how do you dub Kinski? But um, yeah. But the role is all him, it's like the role is all him just because of his physicality, just because of the actor that he is, it's like the role's all his, but really curse that man who dubbed Kinski, curse him straight to whatever realms that doll came from, because this is just this is an unforgivable act. This is one of those unforgivable acts for me where I was just like, yeah, curse that guy. Like I don't curse many people, but that guy was like, he deserves it. He really does. But whatever the case, what, he brings a real charm to the role, of course. He's Kinski, And this role is very like understated, like his role as Nosferatu. And I remember Herzog saying in My Best Fiend, which is a great documentary, by the way, and I highly recommend checking that out. If you like Herzog, if you love Kinski, just if you love anything, if you love life, check this out. I'm telling you, it is one of the greatest watches that you'll ever have in your life. Um, and I remember Herzog saying, like, for Nosferatu, that it's like, yeah, I got this really, like, quiet, gentle performance out of him because he had just come off of one of his Jesus tours. Now, the Jesus tours, if you're not familiar, so he would get on stage and rant and rave for hours while the audience just antagonized him into a frenzy. Kinski at his most Kinski. um, and he would just like rage for hours, and it was something apparently like he kind of needed to quell the outbursts in his professional and personal lives. Not that it did much good, but occasionally I suppose it kind of hit that right mollifying spot, and Kinski sort of found his serenity a little bit, I think. Um, and it's just, I don't know. It just makes me think like, God, I would have given anything to meet him. I mean, I think that's why I did the like fake weird seance I did and like maybe accidentally raised him. Um, because I really would have given anything to meet him. I was only like 4 when he died, so it's could have been impossible. But you know what the thing is? I think even as a kid, even if I met him as a child, he would have screamed in my face, he would have threatened my life. And it just brings a tear to my eye to imagine it. It would have been the gift of a lifetime. It would have been the gift of a lifetime. And I would have cherished it forever. Um, there's, man. I can dream a dream. Um, but you know what? The other thing that I find really, really kind of fascinating about Kinski is that he's such an exceptional actor. But it amuses me that like he took so many Z roles in these really like sleazy movies, and it's like, yeah, sure. I think that was probably like, only Herzog and directors that had no other option could really like cope with his very furious volatility. Um, and I must say, like, to have not just one, but three sets of people that we know about plot your murder. I mean, that's like it's an accomplishment, man. Like, you just have to look at that and be like, dude, that's a life like none of us would ever dare live, right? Like, I mean, the audacity of Kinski just to exist. You gotta love it. You really gotta love it. And to bring up reincarnated dogs again, because we're back on the topic. I think my mom had a corgi that was a reincarnated Kinski. I really do. He was a very handsome dog. Very, and like, but he was prone to these very vicious tantrums. Okay, he was like, I was the only one he never bit. He was like sweet to me, allowed me to pick him up and put his medicine on when he needed it, and he slept in the bed with me. But he was just like fraught with mania with everyone else. I'm telling you, the dog was vicious. He scared people. It's like, what? Maybe if we would have put him in an acting class, it's like maybe that could have quelled his little frantic soul. I felt bad for the poor dog, but you know, I do think he might have been a reincarnation of him. But I guess I don't know the acting. It's like I suppose it never really worked with Kinski, and and it's like maybe that's why he was able to perform, in the way that no one else really can, and no one else really ever will, I think. Is because he felt the full range, the full spectrum of human emotion. In a matter of minutes, he could just flip from pole to pole, that guy. And maybe he was never acting. It's like maybe he was never acting, but maybe he was just doing something as simple as breathing, really. And I know that Herzog's is different, but it's like maybe that was kind of part of it, though. Like he practiced into exhaustion because if he didn't, it'd be like stopping your own heart. Um, it's just he's really one of the greatest to ever do it. He is one of my favorite actors, as well as me being just over the moon for him and completely in love with him. I just think he's truly the greatest to ever do it, man. Um, and I hope that's not forgotten with all of the Z roles that he took, because I think that plays into the whole thing. Like he had to keep going, he just he loved it, but also his volatility just pushed everybody away. Um, but we got some great gore in this one. This being the original Face Off, okay. And you know what? It makes me think, like, I wonder if John Woo ever watched this movie. It's like, I got a copy, John. If you're watching Mr. Woo, I have a copy. We could watch. I could tell you about, I got some popcorn, but I could tell you about some reincarnated dogs afterwards. I think it'd be a pretty good time. So if you're interested, please hit me up in the comments section and we'll get it going. And I do think he would enjoy it, at least the second part, I think. I think he would enjoy hearing about the reincarnated dogs. I think that would be of interest to Mr. Wu. And I'd love it. I would love it. I would love it so dearly. John Woo is like one of my favorite directors. I know I've talked about like horror, but action is like right up there. I'm just such an action aficionado, and of course, it's like how could you be an action fish? How could you be an like an action aficionado without a just absolute just reverence for John Woo? It just doesn't, it wouldn't even make sense. But getting back to topic, we got our tragic end, just like for Frankenstein. Kinski, after successfully pulling off a stunt that only John Woo and like the occasional soap opera really has attempted, he recreates his wife's face. So he is successful with the skins. Um, and of course, she's like so overjoyed. She fucks the first man she sees that does not happen to be Kinski. She literally actually backstabs him, stabs him in the back before she goes and fucks the other guy. It's just like women, man. We're kind of like that sometimes, you know. It's like sometimes you just need to stab a little back and get fucked. I don't know. I don't know. It's really an inexplicable thing that we do, you know, but we do it sometimes. So be careful. Be careful, boys. Uh, just I'm just going with it. So I just feel so bad for Kinski because it's like my heart breaks. He's like walking the halls with this little candelabra, and he's like searching the halls for like, oh, maybe the knife in my back and me slowly bleeding out is like just a little bit of exotic foreplay. But it isn't. It isn't. He agonizes to death. It's not classic Kinski agonizing. So we get that little sweet treat for us, and I believe like his soul is taken into his wife's like grotesque doll, and then his spirit has his revenge. He burns her face clean off, and it's really a vengeance well earned, Klaus. Good job, man. So there we have it. There we have it. Paul Morrissey, Weddings Beyond the Grave, the enraged spirit of Klaus Kinski being accidentally raised and running amok around Hollywood. um, uh, God, come visit me, Klaus. Come visit me. That would make my whole life. Then we got Udo Kier. We got Napoleon and his imperial servants. We got incest. We got murder, and we got reincarnated dogs. What could be better on a Friday night? Of course, only half of these things have anything to do with Flesh for Frankenstein and the Hand That Feeds the Dead. But that's life, man. Just go with it, just vibe with it, and I guess I'll wrap this up for you. Shame on me for watching. Shame on us all for the recommendation. And shame on your very damn soul for checking this out. Enjoy, and I'll see you on the next go round.